Works for me.
All right. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Juicing the Numbers, your statistics and sports podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Joshua Tracy.
And I'm one of your fuck. Wow, that was quick. Jesus fuck. I'm one of your hosts, Corwin Heller. Fuck off.
Oh man, and it is a little bit later than we usually do this. It's 9 p.m. here on the East Coast. Jesus, man. Corwin and I have had long weekends, man. This is going to be another short one because we both have to stop trying to function today. So we're going to finish up the back 16 of the first round of the NFL draft in preparation of the actual NFL draft that will be happening starting this Thursday. So we won't have immediate reaction to the first round since our next episode will drop on Thursday, but we'll have full draft, I guess, reaction, analysis, whatever we feel like calling that term, for next Monday's episode. But that is for next Monday. Today we must finish out Corwin's ideals and prescriptions of players towards others' teams. So
Prescriptions?
I think it works there.
I'm prescribing these players to these teams. Hey, this will fix your You know what? The more we talk about it, the better it gets. So
that's because like I was gonna say prescriptions, and then that's why I paused. But I was like, does it make sense? And then I decided that it did for that exact reason. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
anyway.
speaking of back 16, Josh had his story time before we started recording. I didn't get to talk about mine. I played golf yesterday.
Oh, nice.
It was my first time breaking 100. It was a great day for Corwin. Broke my putter on like that 13th hole.
Oof.
Hit like a 20-footer uphill, beautiful curving shot. Threw it in celebration and it shattered. Oh, God. It just like the head snapped right off. And it was like, I want to be upset because that's so fucking stupid. Why would I do that? But I was still riding that adrenaline high of making that putt. So,
well, at least you didn't like break a cherished club because you missed a putt by smacking it against all of your other clubs, like Greg.
yeah, I've witnessed it. It's happened.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yep. So let's get started.
Yeah,
Let's get started.
Yeah.
Where are we? We went through 16. Micah Parsons just went to the Arizona Cardinals. So we're here at the 17th pick. Do you want to do a run through of the first 16? Or do you want to just
give it to me real quick.
All right, no trades in this draft. So if you are curious, these teams are in order 1 through 16, starting with Jacksonville, finishing with Arizona. And the order is Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, all quarterbacks. Jamar Chase, wide receiver. Penei Sewell, offensive tackle. Jalen Waddle, wide receiver. Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle. Caleb Farley, cornerback. Patrick J.C. Horn, cornerback. My bad, guys. Kyle Pitts, tight end. Devonta Smith, wide receiver. Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle. Now Patrick Surtain Jr. and Mac Jones, Micah Parsons rounding it out. Probably not the smoothest way to do that, but it's too late to go back and do it again. So, 17th pick, Oakland Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders are on the clock. Last offseason, they tried real hard to fix their middle defense with some linebacker signings, I should say. I believe it was Corey Littleton and Nick Kwiatkowski. I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't care enough to double check. I realize my camera's tilted incorrectly. So to solve their problem, they're going with the best cover linebacker in this draft, a guy who's going to come in and be able to play all over the field, just absolute dynamic range, dynamic player. Micah Parsons, he's your run-stopping, blitzing linebacker. Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa, linebacker out of Notre Dame, is your coverage. Nickelback, almost safety hybrid, just movement linebacker. So I think he'll come in. I think he'll play some serious snaps for them, and I think he'll be I almost said cornerstone. He's not the corner. He's the keystone. He's the man locking down the middle. One of my favorite players to go in the middle part of this draft here. Next up, we have the 18th pick, the Miami Dolphins. They are going with their second pick here in the first round. They
Punter. Punter. Take a punter.
Okay, I don't know any punters in this draft, so they're going with Punterston, punter out of Punt University, 18th overall. But they took Penei Sewell, offensive tackle out of Oregon. Not too shabby, protecting Tua. I'd like to see them go after some offensive weapons here. Get him a top tier wide receiver. Get him a top tier tight end in Kyle Pitts if they can. Hey, if they trade back, maybe go after a top tier running back if they don't think Miles Gaskin is the answer, which I don't think they will. That being said, this is it's a tough no man's land here where I don't think they'd reach this high for a guy like Rashawn Bateman or Najee Harris. So I have them going with the top edge rusher on the board, Kwity Paye, edge out of Michigan. He's the first edge rusher to go in this draft. Uber athletic, max potential here. Is going to need a little time to really get up to NFL speed, isolate some of that technique down. Miami Dolphins have the time. So I have him going here to the Dolphins, Kwity Paye.
Okay.
19. Next up, we have the Washington. This website has Washington as Washington. That's the funniest fucking thing I didn't notice through
the Washingtons. I love that.
Washington. They're stealing my pick for the Steelers here. Tevin Jenkins, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma State. Primarily a right tackle. I think that's where his fit's gonna really get locked in. I do think Washington will move him to the left side, but I think he is arguably the best run blocking offensive lineman in this draft. Absolute animal in that regard. I think without a quarterback there in Washington, they do have Antonio Gibson there, so I think this would be a nice fit, especially after losing Trent Williams last year to the trade to the 49ers. Retools this offensive line. Another guy that I'd love in this first round, middle area here. Washington. Good pick.
Washingtons.
20th overall, we have the Chicago Bears.
In a perfect position to do absolutely nothing real to make that team fucking better.
Absolutely. I mean, they need a quarterback. 5 of them have already been taken. You have the 20th pick. Do you want to take
Mac
the
Jones.
6th quarterback?
Mac Jones. Oh,
he's already gone.
Yeah.
They'd have to go for like Kellen Mond or Davis Mills or Kyle Trask. Have you heard any of those names before?
I think Kyle Trask sounds familiar.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. He was pretty good for Florida this year. He's had the most buzz, but at the end of the day, not franchise cornerstones. I want to take 20th overall. Nope. That being said, I do fully expect Allen Robinson to get the fuck out of Dodge when his contract is up after next year, having just signed the franchise tag. Boy, I don't think that. Oh man, Darnell Mooney and Anthony something. I forget his last name. Those aren't the guys you want being the cornerstones for your receiving core when you do bring in a new quarterback. So I have them going Rashad Bateman here, wide receiver out of Minnesota. Ex-guy who could be a number 1 in the NFL, has the ability. Chicago, give him a year to learn under Allen Robinson. Then when he inevitably leaves because you've ruined the prime of his career, you have your replacement. 21, Indianapolis Colts. And a nice sweet spot for them where, hey, they don't have a lot of holes to fill. There's plenty of guys here that they can take and would fill roles for them. And I think the biggest thing for them is, hey, we're going to be working towards, keeping Carson Wentz upright. He is the worst quarterback in the NFL under pressure. That is what we saw last year. That's what caused this collapse from MVP candidate to getting traded to get replaced by a second round pick after two starts. Start. Who fucking knows? So I have them going with the top offensive lineman here on the board. Elijah Vera Tucker, if I'm mispronouncing your first name, I'm sorry. It is confusing. I am not good with it. Probably play guard for them. Opposite side of Quentin Nelson, be their right guard. I think that is an excellent starting piece for them with the maneuverability, the adaptability to play tackle if needed. Keep Carson Wentz upright. Feed Jonathan Taylor. I think this is a plus layup pick. That's just an easy make for them.
Okay.
Next up at 22, the Tennessee Titans. There's a couple different ways they can go here. They're gonna be pounding the rock on the ground with Derrick Henry. They already have AJ Brown there at receiver. Behind him, they don't have much, but they also don't have much in the way of cornerbacks right now. And there's gonna be wide receivers there in the second. So take Greg Newsome the second, the last first round cornerback that I would see as a possibility for them out of Northwestern. Lock down that defense. The offense is fine. They'll take care of their own, make the team better. And now we have pick 23, the New York Football Jets. Josh, we went Zach Wilson at 2. We talked about that. What are your thoughts here at 23?
So, in my heart, I would like another offensive lineman. However, the Jets have many issues to address. Fortunately, they are still in a better overall position this year versus last year. But if we're not going to take an edge guy, or I should say, we can avoid taking an edge guy this high if we felt like, since we had our big free agent acquisition at that position. We have a hopefully improving
What was the
offensive line.
acquisition?
The guy from the Bengals.
Oh, Bowser, Tyus Bowser.
Oh no, I don't think that was that it. Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't feel mentally confident enough in that one, but he's the only prominent edge rusher I could think leaving the Ravens.
No, Cincinnati.
Oh, Carl Lawson.
That was it, Carl Lawson.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not present enough to be able to recall a name. So yeah. Anyway, corner or the secondary, I think, is the only main group of position. Oh, wide receiver, that I would think 23rd overall is potentially worth taking a pick at. But I'm curious to hear what you have for us here.
Man, I wanted to go so many different ways. Offensive line, we always talk about it, one of the foundational pieces. There really isn't anyone here at 23 after Vera Tucker, after Tevin Jenkins go, that would make sense, especially when you have so many needs and so many other ways you can go here. Cornerback, same way. Yeah, there could be guys that I would take. Like Newsome is a guy that could fall to 23 that I think would, be a good player for the Jets. Wide receiver, we've seen it every year. There's so much talent that falls to the second round. You don't really need to push for it early. Trayvon Mooring, I think is how you pronounce his name, safety out of TCU. I think if you do go secondary, if you do go safety, hey, that's another good option for you. I just don't see the Jets going safety in the first round at 23 when you have former number 1 overall recruit Jalen Phillips, edge rusher out of Miami, right there on the board. A guy who's been, uber athletic his entire career. That's been his calling card for his entire career. Number 1 overall prospect coming out of high school, signs with hometown UCLA. Is hurt, doesn't, have the best footing there, decides, hey, we're going to transfer to Miami. We're going to play for a team that's going to, push for an ACC spot, push for that championship. We're going to try and contend. They had a lot going on there under Manny Diaz at Miami. and shows out. He has a really great year. Gregory Rousseau was the guy talked about in Miami coming into the draft as, hey, that's Miami's edge rusher. That's going to be the guy. He's going to be a top 10 pick. He's not great at rushing the passer. So Jalen Phillips, he stood up, took that weight, and he's looking like a really good prospect with a lot of potential. Obviously, second edge rushers taken at 23 overall. So this isn't a great year, but he's a guy who's going to have that bend, who's going to have that athleticism, who's going to be able to rush the passer. And we talk about it a bunch. When was the last time the Jets had a premier edge rusher?
Jonathan Abraham.
That was a long time ago. I don't remember
Yeah.
ever watching him on TV.
Fucking like 05, 06.
Yep, that's before my time. So they got Carl Lawson. He's not, a 1A kind of guy. You get yourself Jalen Phillips, you get yourself Carl Lawson. Carl Lawson could unlock something and take that step up. Jalen Phillips can unlock something and take that step up. At the end of the day, worst case scenario, you have two B-level pass rushers. That's a hell of a lot better than the Jets have had. And I think both going for that home run while also having a safe, safety net underneath for potential. I think Jalen Phillips is a good fit here.
I mean, you're right. This is another good way that also helps take pressure off the secondary, which this might be a quicker route to go about doing it because depending on how you want to look at it, let's say you take a cornerback, but the quarterback doesn't face enough pressure, so the quarterback still has enough time to make the throws. Well, then you only have one side of your field shut down. Marcus May can only do so much as a safety, and you're still going to be weak either underneath or on the other side of the field.
Can only shadow a guy as a cornerback for so long before he gets space.
And then there's that too, I mean, at some point, the longer the quarterback holds the ball competently, the more benefit goes towards the wide receiver. And so for the Jets to actually have a competent pass rush, potentially from both sides of the line, oh my God. I mean, I can't think of the last time we had actual threats on both sides. The closest we came was to having whoever was on the left side of the defensive line, and Jamal Adams sometimes going up the right. And that's not good.
I mean, that's the start for a strong defensive line. Carl Lawson, Quinnen Williams, Jalen Phillips, all rushing the passer. Those guys are going to get home and get pressure more often than not. That's going to be a good foundational piece for a Robert Saleh-led defense that wants to get after the quarterback.
You know what? This might be a good forward-thinking move in terms of how much the Jets have allowed mobile quarterbacks to fuck them.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we have a better capability of really, setting a pocket, or cutting off like the gaps in the, I don't know what you'd really setting the edge. There. What's up?
I just fucking spilled my beer. God damn it, it's everywhere.
Now that we're back post beer fuck up. Anyway, yeah, I think this could be a good move because the AFC East, Jesus Christ. I think in order to compete in the division as it stands right now, you're going to have to deal with a couple mobile or should be relatively mobile quarterbacks between Josh Allen, I guess Cam Newton, and I'm not really sure Tua Tagovailoa's game since I didn't really see him much, but I would assume that the hope is that he'll be an athletic guy. And if you're going to compete in that division, you're going to need to be able to actually stop those dudes from fucking running. And I can tell you for certain, the Jets have not been able to do that. And not even against just the agile quarterbacks. The Jets aren't able to do that against fucking slow old men quarterbacks. So to have the ability to at least be relatively more confident in stopping that type of game would be huge for us.
Absolutely. So good pick for them. I like Jalen Phillips. I think he's going to do good things. And the Jets don't snag a need for the Steelers. So that is something that we're going to have to watch very closely because if the Jets do steal a Tevin Jenkins, so to speak, that next podcast is going to be it's going to be a tense one.
Well, let's talk about some Steelers.
Hey, the Steelers are up with pick 24 and Tevin Jenkins is off the board. I don't know if you've been able to pick up on this yet, but he's the guy I want the Steelers to take. and it's not even close to the rest of the options. Supposedly, the rumor going through the mill at the moment is that there are three guys the Steelers are locked in on to take. Um, we have Tevin Jenkins, of course, Najee Harris, or Landon. Fuck, what's his goddamn name? Landon Dickinson, um, center out of Alabama. His medicals are scaring a lot of teams off, so I don't necessarily think the Steelers would be risking that in the first round. So with Tevin Jenkins off the board, I'm giving them Najee Harris, mostly as a talking point, partially because I truly can't say I'd be upset if we went Harris here. It's not the team building pick that I would want. I don't think this is the correct choice long term. I think the issues the Steelers have had running the ball is not necessarily the fault of the running backs as much as it's been a decline in the offensive line, both the guys that were there and were healthy, the guys that were hurt and weren't playing up to their full potential, and guys that were just getting worse with age. Um, we're going to be having a very mismatched offensive line again next season. There's a lot of holes to fill. I don't want to have to wait 31 picks to go after an offensive lineman if we do take running back here. I think the quote unquote opportunity cost of grabbing a guy like Jenkins here versus getting a running back now, getting a guy like Najee Harris, who's a true, dynamic running back, a guy who can run between the tackles, can burst outside, can catch the ball, can catch and make plays, make guys miss. And he's a hell of a blocker, for all things considered, for the benchmark you want out of guys coming out of college, he can get the job done. So he's a complete back in the truest sense of the word. I just we talk about it all the time. We've brought it up through the rest of this mock draft. Teams are built on the foundational pieces that they have along the offensive and defensive line. The Steelers don't have any foundational pieces on the offensive line. They have David DeCastro, they have Dotson, who are both very good guards. At the end of the day, they're still missing three key pieces and have three major question marks. This doesn't fix that. This just kind of alleviates the problem without solving the underlying causes.
Mm.
Um, so I won't hate it. I don't love it. It's not the way I want to see them go. Someone please don't steal Tevin Jenkins because he's kind of the last one in that tier of guys. And boy, I just don't see him or see anyone close to that range, and I just don't see him falling either. So time to move on.
All right.
Pick number 25. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars with their second pick. They took Trevor Lawrence one overall. That's an easy pick to make. Pick number two, it's hard to say. They in your mind, you want to have a strong offense around Lawrence to give him, a good field to work with. At wide receiver, they have DJ Chark, they have Laviska Shenault, both good young players. They brought in Marvin Jones as a boundary guy for them, have that veteran presence. There's no tight end you would really take here at 25. I mean, Pat Fryermuth is a reach here for sure, but he's the only one even worthy of a second round grade, in my opinion. Offensive line, there's guys that you can take. I don't necessarily think there's any here that are worthy of this 25th overall pick. And that's, they have James Robinson at running back, who's an undrafted free agent going into his second year. Yeah, you could get a Travis Etienne, match him up with his college quarterback, or you can save a lot of money running James Robinson out there, who had a stupid amount of scrimmage yards last year, led all rookies, I believe, by the end of the year. I know he missed a couple games, but regardless, he's so cost controlled for the next, 3 years. You don't really want to replace him with a first round running back. So they're going defense. Their biggest hole on defense is their defensive line. Christian Barmore is here. Barmore from Alabama, defensive tackles here. He's kind of the guy that fits in perfectly for what they're trying to do and the hole that they need filled. It's not a sexy pick, but hey, you got Trevor Lawrence, who's quite literally a sexy pick there at number 1 overall.
Sexiest
That's
pick of
there
the
for the
draft.
flash. Exactly. I don't know. Zach Wilson's, he's right up there. But this is the piece that builds your defense, builds that foundational defensive line, like we've talked about ad nauseum, and it's the pick that makes your team better. So, Christian Barmore, whatever, dude. You're not listening to this podcast. If I mispronounce it, I'm sorry. Fucking whatever. So number 26, the Cleveland Browns, who, what holes do they have?
They're just building depth.
I mean, the only thing I could even think of was at linebacker, where you have guys like Taki. I don't know how to pronounce their fucking names. I know they got Mac Wilson out of Alabama there, who's a young guy. They don't have Jamie Collins anymore. I don't know what they got going on at linebacker. I looked it up a couple days ago when I made this. It didn't stick with me, so that's to tell you as much as you need to know. You have a guy like Zaven Collins here, linebacker out of Tulsa, monster of a guy who's just going to put the hurt on some people. I think this is just one of those best player available at the only major hole you have left. Fucking grip it and rip it. Why not? You're making your team better. You don't need to pick depth pieces here in the first round. You pick starters. That's where they can take an impact starter and fit that into their defense, and it just so happens to be a good value for them. So, God, fuck the Browns for just having this just fall right into their lap. You fucking assholes.
They're shit like that, aren't they?
Yep. Next up, pick number 27, the Dirty Birds, the Baltimore Ravens. In one of those situations where shit's just kind of falling into their lap because that's the way the board is falling. They need help at edge. They lost some guys. They just have been missing that for a couple years now. Haven't had that impact player. They've had to trade for some. They're gone. They need their own in-house guy that they could hold for up to 5 years. They're going Aziz Ajulari, edge rusher out of Georgia, another one of these athletic, high upside guys who could come in and just use that athleticism to get after the quarterback. Easy fit for the Baltimore Ravens to get him into their starting lineup day one. Another easy pick for a bullshit rival. Those fucking assholes. Next up, 28. 5 picks remain. The New Orleans Saints. Drew Brees is gone. What the hell does this team do?
Oh my god, I forgot about that until you just said that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it's been such a cornerstone piece for our entire lives. Like that's something you don't question. It's like, oh yeah, the Saints have Drew Brees. Drew Brees is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's Mr. Consistent. He's just always going to be there. And then, oh shit, no, he's actually gone. Um, Saints, I'll tell you what, they got Mike Thomas. They have Alvin Kamara. Can you name another offensive weapon that they have on that team?
Fucking what's his name? The white
Exactly.
guy. No, the white. I was gonna make a joke with that guy they gave a lot of money to.
Oh, Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill. Yeah. But now
Their
it's not funny
starting
because
quarterback.
yeah.
Fuck.
I got nothing.
Exactly. They really don't have much, and if you have a guy like fucking, I guess Jameis Winston is the front runner, Taysom Hill, who knows if you're actually going to get the starting nod. Either way, do you want them having 2 outlets or do you want them to have 3 outlets? I want them to have 3 outlets, and you don't know how long those guys are going to stick around. I don't know their contract situations. That's just a topic I thought of and didn't do any research in prior, so I apologize. But I have them going Terrence Marshall Jr., wide receiver out of LSU. Bring a hometown guy in, bring in a guy who could work outside because Mike Thomas is going to be in that slot like he is. He's getting pushed down boards because of his medical history. A lot of that news came out after I published this. Do I see them going a different direction? Elijah Moore is an option here. Uh, who knows? Rashad Bateman, if he falls, I think would be a tremendous pick here. Absolutely killer pick for them. But he was gone, so I'm going to have them stick with Terrence Marshall Jr. for the time being. Get some weapons for whatever they end up deciding on at quarterback. Get that offense back in rhythm. So next up, we have pick 29, the Green Bay Packers. This pick is just pure wet dream for me.
Ooh.
It worked out taking a wide receiver here that's going to work almost exclusively in the slot. The guys, taken ahead of this, or the teams taken with picks ahead of this, aren't looking for slot receivers. That's why I mentioned it with the Saints. Rondale Moore matching up with Aaron Rodgers, matching up with Devontae Adams. I want to see that kind of electric playmaker worked into that offense. We said Green Bay should have taken a wide receiver last year. They took Jordan Love instead. Jordan Love hasn't seen the field. The Packers have struggled with their wide receiver depth. It's as clear as day that that's what they need to do now. I know we talked about, hey, wait for the second round to get those wide receivers, but by the time Green Bay comes back in the second round, who knows how many are going to be left? Rondale Moore is an electric playmaker who I think is ready to be a star. Don't necessarily know if he could ever be a true number one for a team, but he would be a superstar number two. I want to see him matched up with a guy like Aaron Rodgers. That is just a wet dream for me. So love that pick there.
Cool. Get him weapons. At some point, you
Is
are
that too
going
hard
to
to ask?
literally kill Devontae Adams.
Number 30, the Buffalo Bills. I looked through their depth chart. They're another team that just does not have many holes. You could go wide receiver here, but again, I don't know if that's necessarily where they need the most help. I
I
think
mean,
that
you think Cole Beasley is going to be productive, or was he a big part of their offense last year?
I don't think so. I think
All right.
it's like Isaiah McKenzie.
How
Isaiah,
many how many catches do you think Cole Beasley had last season?
I'm gonna go 48.
Okay. Cole Beasley had 82 receptions last season.
Wow, that's too many.
The most yards of his entire career
Oh
with
God, how many?
967.
Is that number two for them? Was there anyone between him and Diggs?
Let me double check
I can't imagine.
with the Buffalo Bills depth chart. All right, so receiving yards. No, nobody between him and Diggs. After it was so 1535 for Diggs, then down to 967 for Beasley. So that's a 600-yard difference. And then the next closest to Beasley was Gabriel Davis with 599. So there's a nice, tidy 380-yard drop off. And then below that was John Brown with 485. Sorry,
All right, well,
458. So
the draft is already set, so there's no changing it now. There's gonna be plenty of wide receiver options for him there. Again, I mentioned Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss. I think he's probably the next man up. Kadarius Toney's going to be here. I mean, there's guys who are going to be into Dynamic Brown, but he's not a first round guy for me. Regardless, I have them going edge rusher, helping out that defensive line, getting some pressure off the edge. I went homer pick. I went with a 250-pound edge rusher who can run a 4.35 in Jason Owe out of Penn State. The guy, I will be upfront. He didn't record a sack this past season. Did not record a sack during the entirety of the 2020 season, but my goodness, did he still end up living in the backfield of opposing teams. And boy, does he have the athleticism to get there and to put himself together and have a tremendous career. Not the best bend. I'll throw all of his faults out there for the world to see. Doesn't have the best bend, doesn't have the best flexibility at the hips, doesn't have the production his final season at Penn State. But how many fucking edge rushers are built like him and can run a 4.35? Excuse
No,
me. It's just it's one of those picks where if you're the Buffalo Bills, you have a complete team, you're in the driver's seat of your division. You can afford to make those kinds of risky picks with high boomer bust guys. If he booms for you, you have yourself a Pro Bowl edge rusher. If he busts, your team's not any worse. So go all out for the Bills. Let's see what that defense can do. Now's your window to make that run and hopefully beat off the other team in the AFC, Kansas
beat him
City
off,
Chiefs. Beat them off good.
tug
Two
him.
hands at one time. Fucking spit on them if you have to. Grip
Someone's getting
those
throated, man.
balls. Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, Kansas City Chiefs, based off of the Super Bowl, based off of the end of last season, what would you say their biggest need is?
Assistant coaches. Oh, too dark. Um,
Oh, too dark for other teams to hire. Oh,
nah.
now
Oh,
we
I was
suck.
going with Andy Reid's son, but anyway. Um,
Ooh, I was going
eh.
with Eric Bieniemy not being hired
Hey,
by other
Chiefs,
teams
y'all got
because he's black.
problems.
Yay.
Fuck, offensive line still, so that Patrick
Offensive
Mahomes
line
doesn't
is
get
what I was going for.
mauled.
Joshua
Yeah.
Tracy, come on down. That
Well,
is a
I
Price is Right
really
joke.
intuited
I
that
don't
after
actually
Patrick
know how it
Mahomes had to
works.
run 400 yards side to side.
But yeah, I mean, in my mind, it's a glaring need, especially after they released both of their Pro Bowl all fucking pro bookend tackles in Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz. I still don't really get it, but it's a money thing. So I have them going with the next best offensive tackle on my board. There's a couple guys here. There's Eichenberg. There's a guy out of Michigan whose name I'm forgetting, and I don't care because you went to Michigan. You don't deserve to get mentioned on this podcast. But I have Alex Leather Wood, offensive tackle out of Alabama, a guy who's going to do everything at a good enough level. Not one of those guys who's going to be elite in any one area, but isn't going to let you down anywhere else. Kind of that Mitchell Schwartz route. No, just saying, throwing that out there. But they are desperate for offensive tackle, and I think they just need to really just gun it on each of their first three picks and just fucking get as many dart throws out there as possible, hoping to get some day one starters out of them, because otherwise, this is going to be an ugly, ugly year for Pat Mahomes running around that pocket.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
They got to
31
handicap the rest of the league somewhere.
You're not wrong. 31 picks down, one to go. The Tampa Bay Tampa Bay. I was going to be a bit, and then I got so flustered with my
Tampa
own
Brady's.
Tampa
Tampa
Brady's.
Brady
Good enough.
Buccaneers.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers, quarterbacked by Tom Brady. There we go. We figured it out. I didn't know where to go here. I mean, they're bringing back the entirety of that team from the Super Bowl last year, which they won, by the way. Where do you see a real need? Who knows? So I have them really just getting cute with it. Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, you have them both there. Why not get a guy who's has the chance to be a superstar in Travis Etienne? You know, Ronald Jones has been kind of slowly working his way out of the doghouse after getting picked in the second round and putting up nothing his first year. Leonard Fournette, he's a great power back, would match nicely with Etienne, who, in all, for all intents and purposes, Travis Etienne is just a rich man's Ronald Jones to the extreme. I think you drop him down the depth chart, put Etienne in there, and all of a sudden you have an unstoppable offense, and it's just not fucking funny. Um, I genuinely would hate to see this pick because for all of the ways to beat Tom Brady, having 2 all-pro receivers, having a dominant offensive line, and also having a home run capable running back anytime he touches the ball, what are you going to do? How the fuck are you going to stop that team? So,
Knives.
fuck. Knives. Yeah, just fucking stab Tom Brady on the field. Send your worst, your 53rd man on the roster out there. Just slice up that Achilles and say, hey, we'll take care of you while you're in prison. But shit, dude, took one for the team. Thank you. But that's the first 32 picks. That's the first round. I don't expect to get more than, I think my max is 5 of these correct. Player team combinations or player pick combinations. That being said, hey, I'm just fucking excited to have it finally be here.
So if all of these things were to come true, all right, and this draft panned out exactly have you written up, which again, we're not saying it's going to be anywhere near it because there's going to be trades that are impossible to predict, and these are more so jumping off points about team needs than they really are true predictions outside of maybe those first 4 to 6 picks. Um, but if all of these things end up happening, who do you think makes out the best, raw talent wise and pick value wise, out of who you got there?
Value wise, the Colts getting Elijah Vera Tucker at 21, Micah Parsons at 16 is a huge one for me. Kyle Pitts at 11. Talent wise, it probably unbeatable. Just talent and value. Having essentially the second, third best player in the draft fall to you at 11 is huge. The Dolphins and the Bengals are kind of in great positions to get some value there at the top of the draft. And I think the 49ers are probably going to work out best quarterback wise. Just, almost certainly going to have Justin Fields or Trey Lance there, whichever they prefer. Um, and not having to give up much to move up to number 3 comparatively. I think that'll be good. But I think final answer is Kyle Pitts all around at 11. I think when the draft does come around and we see where he ends up, I think it's going to be significantly higher than 11.
Yeah, which I was about to ask. Like, do you think you might see someone trade up to get him? And the reality is, there will be trades up. There are always trades up. It is an inevitability. Yeah, shit, man. Shit's only 4 days
Yeah, if
away
you want to
now.
look at, I know, I fucking can't wait. If you want to look for potential trade backs, 7, 8, 9, I think is a really great area for guys to trade up and grab that next quarterback that's coming off the board. So keep an eye out.
Yeah, man, we will see. I know this is a relatively quick one. But fuck, man, I'm like dead, and it's a weeknight. Well, tomorrow's a school day. It's a school day, so I need. But no, I got work tomorrow. I gotta go to bed.
Mhm.
So do you have anything before we get out of here, Corwin?
Uh, nope.
All right. Well, again, I know we spent the last 2 days last 2 episodes with relatively shorter ones, so we could talk about this, and we haven't gotten to much else in the world of sports. And hey, them's the fucking breaks. This shit happens. Not a big deal. We'll be back at it talking about our usual nonsense and current events and ongoings in the next episode, and then draft recap and stuff after that. But yeah, like life got in the way this week, and suck a dick. I don't really care. Uh, so yeah, we're gonna call that that. If you want to follow the show on Twitter, you can do so at Juicing Pod. We almost never post from there, so you can follow Corwin at Corwin Heller, and you can follow me at Joshua D. Tracy. If you want to send us emails, you can do so at juicingthenumbers@gmail.com. And until Thursday, y'all have a good one.